Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Tuesday, February 22nd, and I hope you all had a nice weekend despite the heavy sell pressure in the crypto markets. Bitcoin, headed down, retested the sub 37K levels for the first time in a very long time. We've also got some interesting news breaking this morning that we can dive into. But, CJ, I know you want to focus a lot on technicals, so we can spend a lot of time doing that. But how are you doing today, my friend?
Doing well. Markets were down earlier, rallying back now, of course, this morning. Very vicious low last night that was put in temporarily. So yeah, excited to discuss that. Look at some of the charts as well because they definitely are interesting. That's without a doubt. How you doing,
Yeah.
my friend?
Yeah, just looking at traditional equities alone, we are right on the precipice of some very critical levels, specifically in, indices like the Qs, where, we are lingering right on the, bottom of these lows here, levels that we haven't retested since May, which also happens to coincide with our local tops for Bitcoin as well. So obviously some correlated price action there and, plenty to dive into. So what do you say we get today's episode started?
Yep, let's do it. A lot of critical levels have overall just been taken out. Like, for instance, Cardano $1 level is taken out. Harmony One, 15-cent level taken out. Just really showing a lot of weakness in some of those. Starting with the S&P here, we do have, it's not a perfect head and shoulders pattern, obviously, but you can see just after we formed this recent lower high and have now kind of gone down and touched the bottom of that range. So we'll see if we have kind of enough to rally off of this level. But overall, it's just not a great posture by any means. Same thing can be said overall for just NASDAQ, as well as Dow. Dow is quite interesting because you have already broken like the critical level of this neckline or support demand level, whatever you want to call it. And so now it's like, does this level act as resistance back on the way up, or are we able to break back above, close maybe some of these gaps, return to the midpoint of the range at roughly 35,000? We shall see. There's been that one data point going around Twitter a lot where it's like it shows the past, historic 5 invasions and how they've impacted the stock market. And then each one says buy the invasion because all of the fear usually, takes place in the market leading up to the actual event that occurs. Could be interesting. I don't know if it's 100% applicable with what we're dealing with, in Russia, Ukraine, and whatever. But, if we are to see some resistance here, we are definitely looking down towards some of these lower levels tentatively. Doesn't mean we'll get there or anything, but very nice to see or very interesting to see either way. The charts that I think are interesting is like the 1 month from a macro perspective, because we've seen like a very like kind of like a deviation or like just a topping pattern on a lot of these charts, not only with indices, but like really large corporations. Yeah. And then as you can see, as I zoom out here, these are basically the major events and turning points that, you could see the start of the Afghan war at the end of 2001, had a little bit of a rally on the back of that, but really we went down and made new lows after that. It's interesting though, we've caught a lot of these major invasion events during like very strong bull markets. Either way, I thought that was interesting. Let's move on to some of the other assets. I specifically like this chart because I just think it's like really interesting. So basically, you have up only in Microsoft for, the past 10 years, ever since '08, basically. And, doesn't mean anything has to happen now, but we are seeing the first 2 bearish engulfing candles after a very, very strong uptrend, parabolic uptrend. And if you take the log, it looks a lot like BTC in 2017, just a giant hyperwave upward. And then you're beginning to see weakness of that hyperwave. So, Nothing detrimental yet, but it's just that's not a chart I necessarily would want to long at the current moment. We'll see. Now, how does this play into Bitcoin and kind of the broader market? Well, let's take a look at BTC and see what we're doing today because we have rallied off the lows. Monthly chart on BTC, pretty bearish. I mean, once we retested the midpoint of the range at 45K, obviously sold into very hard, kind of looking to retest that bottom of the range. Even if we do have a reaction rally of about 42K, 45K, once again, I do expect us to kind of revisit the bottom of the range here at roughly 30 to 29K. I am rushing into that. I am going to rush into that level with stable coins if we hit it. As of now, I'm trying to just trade around some of these small interim market moves. Ultimately, you can see here that although we've had quite a pronounced downtrend, we're starting to bounce from that level. But it's quite interesting that we're running into resistance or support. It depends what the trend makes up its mind because it's right exactly at that level right now. But we actually are in, you have the broader range from 30K to 60K, but then you have kind of the tighter range from the midpoint to our bottom range, and we're actually getting stuck kind of right in the middle of that right now as well. If we want to break this down for kind of like a day trade, go to the 30-minute. So what I was looking at earlier, like if you were in a short here, you would look for the deviation. You would look for, that rounding pattern up. You would wait for weakness and then boom, you'd short right there. If you entered that trade and you went against you stopped out, it's like, all right, get out of the short. So I would be pretty flat right now. I would not want to be shorting this from like a day trade or an interim perspective, just kind of watching how things play out because we've busted through that level already. So interesting to see, but I mean, you can kind of see these deviations on like minor time frames when you have those topping patterns. Almost had one here to the bearish downside, which would have been interesting, but we didn't. We busted straight through, and we're still kind of figuring out what the trend wants to do. Tons of fear though, so an auto rally kind of makes sense here.
Yeah, CJ, and I mean, you touched on Microsoft and some of the, more scary looking monthly charts there. I just want to quickly bring up the Qs here because those are really at an interesting point here as well. And I think part of the reason why, Bitcoin is bouncing a little bit today is because of the performance we're seeing from the Qs. Obviously, much of the performance of this index hinges on the performance of big tech companies like Microsoft and Apple. And, recently those have looked like some of the potentially weakest stocks out there. And, there is a strong correlation between the Qs and Bitcoin. Many short-term traders still trade Bitcoin like it is, an emerging tech stock. That's kind of just the way they perceive it. And it kind of trades as such. But as you can see here, we are right at this critical level, same level we retested all the way back in the end of April, which coincided with, a Bitcoin market top. But as you can see here, I'm not, like you said, CJ, I'm not eager to short anything in crypto right now because we are kind of bouncing from this level. But I think a breakdown from this level, or perhaps when we come up and fail to make a a swing high here, if we fail to bounce above the 360 level and get rejected right around this 360 level, then this would be a decent opportunity to go short. So we're bouncing here from the lows. We tend to see strong supply absorption around those levels. But ultimately, the trend still just looks very weak. And when you have, some charts like Microsoft's monthly chart or Apple's monthly chart that look relatively scary, it just makes me concerned for a breakdown of this index and what that would mean for Bitcoin. But I want to just take a look at the ETH chart real quick as well, because I did see a question about ETH in the chat here. Just taking a look at the chart, I don't know. I'm not quick to call this a bottom. That's what the question was. Is this an ETH bottom? Like CJ pointed out with Bitcoin, we'd still have these lows to retest of ultimately, the lows we retested back at the end of January at about 2,200. And then ultimately the lows all the way back from the bear market of the summer, which kind of coincide just below that 2K level at around 1,800. So I think this is the, possible price floor for ETH. CJ, you were taking a look at the monthly chart for Bitcoin. I think looking at the monthly chart for ETH here as well, you can kind of see that this is a potential similar level where we saw kind of an inflection point where short-term speculators piled in, and ultimately kind of since where we've started to retrace down to, and it looks like we could see a completion of this formation with a retest of sub 2K levels. So although we're bouncing a little bit today, I'm not too quick to flip to a bullish perspective. It is encouraging to see a bounce in the Qs, but like I said, I expect this to be sold into if we fail to make some lower highs here in the immediate future. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. One other thing, CJ, just to mix it up here. I know that was a little bit doom and gloom. I want to talk about some news that I hold near and dear to my heart here because it involves two of my favorite things, and that is crypto and Manchester City. So this news broke this morning. Manchester City begins to work on construction of a metaverse replica of Etihad Stadium, which is their stadium in Manchester. And this is one of the nicest stadiums in the world. For those of you who don't know, Manchester City is owned by Sheikh Al Mansour, and they have some of the deepest pockets in the world of sports. And when they do things, they tend to do things right. And since they've taken over ownership of the club back in 2010, since then they've increased the valuation of the club tenfold. City has won 3 league titles and several more trophies as well. So when they do things, they tend to do things right. And this partnership with Sony, they're trying to build a replica of the stadium. I think this is really interesting because they have such a global contingent of fans. There's international fans all around the world, fans like me in the United States. There's fans of Manchester City in Asia. So being able to, bring those fans together in the metaverse, I think is, the perfect utility for the metaverse. We talked about it just last week when JP Morgan entered the metaverse by creating a lounge in Decentraland. That is interesting, but I think ultimately the one of the most clear-cut utilities and one of the things that I am most excited about is the ability to watch live events, engage with my friends, engage with fellow fans while watching teams or events that I am very interested in. So this is something that is underway. They announced their partnership with Sony back in 2021 at the start of the year, and they had goals of entering the metaverse earlier this year. And now these plans to build a one-to-one replica of Etihad Stadium with the ability for fans to come in, interact, watch games, and have an experience like they're at the stadium is something that I find very appealing. So just wanted to bring that up real quick. But anything else you want to hit here, CJ, before we wrap things up?
Yeah, one more chart. I want to hit the ETH BTC chart.
Yeah.
I know you said no doom and gloom earlier, but I mean,
no. It's all good.
just
Keep it real.
like it's just general weakness, right? Like weekly chart, Ethereum, BTC. You get the TWAP flipping. First sign of significant negative momentum since previous bear market, or at least just like accumulation levels with very low interest. Never really had the strength to make new highs against the 2018 and 2017 market cycle. We'll see. We'll see. But I just wanted to point out that TWAP flip. Thought it was kind of interesting. Just shows that the momentum here is not necessarily on the up. We'll see though.
Yeah, we'll see. One thing I did post in chat, and then I'll dive a little bit more into it during the Doge of the Day, but Glassnode put out their weekly market report, and I think they have some really good insight about some of that momentum and ultimately where some of the sell pressure is coming from. So if you guys want to check that out, head over to Glassnode's YouTube channel. They just published it a few minutes ago, about 30 minutes ago, so definitely check that out. But I think that's all we got for today. We'll do a little bit more in-depth analysis, look at some specific assets during the Doge of the Day. So if you'd like to get access to that and our crypto community, you can do so at the link below me, marketrebellion.com/try crypto. We got a pro charting service, a chat with traders from all around the world. We publish actionable trading sites with entries, exits, stop losses, an education curriculum, and a whole lot more. So definitely head over there and check that out. And don't forget, please like and subscribe. Helps out the channel a lot. One last thing I have to mention, Crypto Convo, new episode, launches today, 11:30. It is with the one and only Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary. So definitely you don't want to miss that. Him and John have a nice conversation about crypto. Kevin recently entered the crypto space over the last couple of years, and looking forward to hearing that conversation between those two. So you can check that out at our YouTube channel at 11:30 Central, I believe, or also at cryptoconvo.com. But that is all we got for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.